Welcome to Spectrum Perspectives, real talk with parents, professionals, and autism advocates. With your host, Cindy Gellermini.
All right, so that brings me to the subject of ABA, right?
Yes.
I'm assuming that Michael had ABA therapy.
Yes.
So, Michael, can I ask you about that? So you said that the therapies that you got they're all getting it wrong. So I'd like to ask you about ABA therapy and speech therapy. You know, what was your experience? Let's start with ABA. What was your experience with it, and what are your thoughts about it?
Ready?
Now you try.
Okay.
I
Then ABA was a nightmare. P comes Y then. And so was speech therapy. It's all wrong. I mean, and again, it's all wrong. When you know what we know now, it's all wrong. It's we can kind of laugh about it now and kind of try to explain, like it's very much like when everybody thought the world was flat. It's not flat, guys. It's round. And
Some people still think it's flat. We won't go
these guys
there.
are telling us what they need. They're telling us what, and it makes so much sense. And there's, again, I've got this mother's gut thing going on, and I think all mothers do, but none of it. Michael could do certain things and couldn't do other things, and it just never made sense. You know, like it just, when we found spelling and I started to learn about everything involved in it, the brain-body disconnect, how speech and the brain are not connected, how it's a fine, but all of a sudden, can you believe this? And a mother with a kid with autism is saying, it all makes sense now. Like, I don't have a question. Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
Because you live 25 years of like, I don't get, like, why is this happening? What? And now it all makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
And that the weight that fell off my shoulders in that instance, I still remember it. It wasn't too long ago. So I may cry, brought my tissues. Here they are.
Yeah, and I'm very emotional today too. So if you start, I'm going to start. So I'm going to make sure I have
The weight that fell off my shoulders when I found out what was going on with him. And it all made sense that I just can't tell you. And it doesn't mean, you know, this is not easy. I'm telling you, me learning how to be a communication partner for him was the hardest thing I think I've ever done. It was many days of tears, months actually of tears of just, I can't do this. I can't do this. I don't know. Thankfully, we have an amazing practitioner, one of the best in the country here in Knoxville, Tennessee. So we were just beyond fortunate to have that resource. And so, I mean, to learn from her and to get all the other information from her has just been invaluable.
So how did you find spelling?
Okay, so I have this incredible friend who I think actually you might even know on social media, Kim Kretich. She is a very big advocate and has been doing volunteer advocacy for 20 years. And we met 21 years ago when she and her husband and their children moved to Knoxville. She also had a son with autism, Michael's age. And we met and she said, somebody told me I need to meet you because you have a son with autism and you guys are the same. So we met. So she has just been an incredible advocate. And it was really about full inclusion, you know, and she got student after student after student after student, you know, full inclusion, the supports they needed. And again, not always full inclusion. There are some kids that's not what they need. But she fought and fought and fought. And she was advocating for this one young man. And she would tell me about what he was doing and he was spelling. And it was interesting, but I'm like, I can spell, he can type, he can write, he can speak. Like, this is not for him. And we both kind of agreed that. It was not for Michael because he wasn't this kid, because this
Yes,
kid
that's a misconception. Yeah,
right,
people that think, my kid can speak, I don't need it.
This
Was he using Proloquo or any other devices?
Michael?
Yeah.
No, none of those worked for him, which is really interesting because we couldn't.
And could he type on a computer or no?
He can type 170 words a minute with no mistakes. If it's his scripts or if he's got something in front of him. but he can't type this higher level thought, like all these amazing things he spells on a daily basis that are beyond me.
There's the key. That's the key that a lot of parents need to learn right there.
And I didn't understand that at all. So yes, I mean, let's focus on that because that's huge. That tipped the scale for me because I've got a kid who does speak, who types beautifully, who can write, who can do even lower level math, like algebra 1A, he can find X with 2X equals 6, like he can and write it down and use his write it down. Well, you should see what he can do when he's spelling in math.
Wow.
Beyond, anyway, we'll get into that as well.
Okay.
But so she was advocating for this kid. We talked a lot about it. And then one day,
wait, advocating for what kid? A different kid?
This other child for spelling in the school because he was he was not speaking.
Okay.
They wanted him to have spelling in the school. He was he had been doing it for years. And the parents didn't want to tell anybody. They didn't want to, because they were just, we're going to do this. And then he's going to stay in his CDC class, but we're going to continue to do this at home. And then, then you realize what your kid knows and who this young man is. And he's brilliant and he has no intellectual disability at all. And so they started pushing to have it in the school. And Kim was advocating for this young man and their family. And then she met another young man and she said, I just met a guy just like Michael who's spelling. You got to do this. And I said, okay. I didn't know anything about it, which I think at the time was really, and this was only 18 months ago, which was really good because I went in blind. I was like, he's 25. Let's throw anything up against the wall and see if it sticks.
Sure.
And so again,
you don't have to fight any schools about it or anything either at this point.
Yeah. So we have this great practitioner, Kelly Howe in Knoxville, Tennessee.
How'd you find her?
Kim, that's who this
Who's the
other
other
young
woman?
that's
Okay.
a practitioner. So I called, made an appointment. Day one, I sat in that office with my mouth hanging open. And she said she was speaking to Michael, like he was a 25-year-old young man. Like she was speaking to my 20, I have another son who's 23.
Mm-hmm.
Just how I would speak and anybody would speak to him. She was speaking to, and I'm thinking, oh, honey, you don't understand. He doesn't understand anything you're saying, but okay, fine. And so I sat and she started going through these lessons. She did a few tests on his eyes to make sure he didn't have any eye movement issues, which he did not. And so
was this Speller's method or S2C? Which method is this?
Spelling to communicate.
Because Speller's method focuses a lot on the eyes. That's why I asked.
Yes. And this one does too, actually, but he didn't, he's very methodical when he spells. I can't say it was easy for him to spell. Is excruciatingly hard, but he picked it up pretty quickly. And she started with these lessons and you have these very structured lessons that you have to do. And he was answering questions through spelling that there's no way he knew. I didn't know. I think one of the very first ones was Oscar Pistorius. The answer was Oscar Pistorius, the runner. He was a man. He was
it's somebody's name. I thought that was
yes, he was a para-Olympian in running who had lost both of his legs, and he was fast and popular. And then he, I don't know, killed his girlfriend anyway. It was a terrible situation. But anyway, they were reading this. And he was able to spell out Oscar Pistorius's name. Okay, I don't know how to spell it. I can barely say it. And then she asked him, what's his nickname? And he spelled out Blade Runner because he wore blades when he ran. Yeah. Like everything in his computer history is Disney and Mickey Mouse. And
wait, was that in the lesson?
It was in the lesson. Yeah,
okay.
They're very structured lessons.
So he was definitely paying attention. Yeah.
Right, but the name wasn't in the lesson. The word Blade Runner wasn't in the lesson.
That's what I'm asking. Was Blade Runner in the lesson?
He knew this.
Oh.
And so I, for the first 3 or 4 lessons, was convinced she was somehow prompting him, even though she was not touching him. Somehow she was prompting him, or he had photographic memory and he was looking at her lesson, taking a picture of it, and then just somehow filling in the blanks.
Right.
But then, again, like Blade Runner wasn't on the paper. So my thought process was extremely flawed, but I was like, I've got to figure out how she's doing this or how he's doing it. He doesn't know this. He's never. And so it wasn't until probably 2 weeks later that I just was, it was the answers he was given. It was his ability, information he knew. And I probably cried straight for a month after that. And I started learning about that brain body disconnect and that his brain he doesn't have any intellectual disability. I don't even know what autism is anymore.
Yeah.
Right. Right.
Apraxia. If you didn't have apraxia, would he have autism? I don't like what. I think all of the the signs of autism are praxic situations. So yeah, so I have cried in the last 18 months.
Well, it's funny because autism is diagnosed by behavior,
which I laugh about now. I'm like, and again, I don't laugh to make I don't take this lightly, but I'm like, oh my gosh, we were so wrong.
we're wrong about everything.
So wrong about everything. And I'm not.
So I want to ask Michael his take on that very first spelling lesson. What was going on in his mind during that? And can you maybe, can we watch him spell this time? Can maybe turn somehow, or drop the camera or something. Yeah. Yep. Michael, what was going on in your mind that first day that you spelled?
Ready? Then. From the moment I met Kelly, I knew my life was WAS. WAS. My life was going to get better. From the moment I met Kelly, I knew my life was going to get better. Again, it's still not easy. His life is not easy. Our life is not easy. I have 2 other children, a 28-year-old daughter and a 23-year-old son. I understand what it's like to raise typical children. I've got 2. I call them my bookends. They're wonderful. They're wonderful, and it's a very typical. They're very, it was a very typical life for them. Other than a brother with autism, it's so wonderful. It's just so wonderful because he's brilliant. He's so brilliant. And he just talks about thank you for treating me now like I am a man, we just talk about it all the time. He is he talks too about finding his voice and finding spelling saved his life. And we need to delve into that if that's something that.
Yeah, that's what I want to talk about. Yeah. So Michael, how has spelling changed your life?
Well, he had spelled that for this podcast the other day. So he said, finding my voice, and I will cry. Finding my voice through spelling literally saved my life. Having a way, I'm sorry, I do want to preface this with Michael grew up, we have a great family. I have an amazing husband, 3 great kids. We live in this adorable neighborhood in Knoxville, Tennessee. Our little school is, right behind us. We have a little public library right next to us. We've got playgrounds. We live across the street from a park. Everybody knows everybody. It's just a really nice place to be. Both my husband and I are, we're loving, educated, and we've done everything for him. So before spelling, before he was able to communicate, everybody that knows Michael, I would give it a collective everybody that knows Michael, including us, his family, would say he's had a great life. He engaged in sleepovers with friends. He was always on his swim team. They named him captain of his swim team in his high school. He went to everything. Not only did he have an inclusive life at school to the best that we could do it, but he did at home. We didn't do anything without him, So I just kind of always prided myself on, he's had a great life. So here we go. Finding my voice through spelling literally saved my life. Having a way to communicate gave me the will to live because I had almost given up hope and had no reason to live. Fleeing the hell of living in a silent prison seemed like my only choice. It was a better option than living in a world that thought I was a moron. Only after I acquired reliable communication can I finally show the world how smart I am. So now I beg anyone who knows a non-speaking person to introduce them to spelling to communicate because it will save their life. To not help them is cruel and inhumane. Non-speaking people are going to find a way to end their suffering. So once I got myself together after that, did you know?
And you had no idea.
That word, I still can't even say without it just ripping my heart out of my skin. I mean, you never, ever, ever, and nobody, I think this will shock anybody who knew us and knew him.
Sure.
Because, oh, Michael's happy. He was living in hell. So then I asked him, what do you say to parents, teachers, therapists who say, well, my kid, my student, they're not capable of this spelling. Like you can do it. You have the skills, the person I see or my kid is intellectually disabled. Like there's no way. He said, look for the people that can help your child and get out of the way. So,
Get out of the way. That's interesting. What does he mean by that?
He means parents, therapists, and teachers can be the people saying, well, he can't do that.
Right.
They don't even introduce them to spelling.
Sure.
They don't even, because they're like presuming competence. I would have never presumed the competence that he has without, because he tells me on a daily basis, you don't know. We were so proud of him because he could do basic algebra in high school. Like I said, he could find the X, right? And he could write it. But that's a fine motor activity. So him doing basic algebra and then utilizing fine motor to write that answer down was an enormous feat for him. But now that he is spelling, he uses a gross motor way to write the answers, and it's very easy. I enrolled him in an Algebra 2 class probably a year ago. It's an Algebra 2 class for spellers. We went through the first 3 lessons, and I'm struggling with, all the parentheses and the different everything with it. And he seems pretty at ease. He's getting everything right. He's barely even watching the videos, but he wouldn't finish it. And I couldn't motivate him to come finish it. And finally, one day he just said, you need to know that I know all the math you can give me. And in fact, I don't want to do it. It is so easy for me. It angers me that you want me to do it. So then I just started Googling physics, high-level math seminars in Knoxville, Tennessee. And we happen to live very close to the University of Tennessee. And there was a high-level math seminar put on by PhD students. And they just talk about different topics once a week. And I asked them if he could come.
Yeah.
And so he has started going once a week there. I don't know one word they use. I don't know any of the words they use.
I wouldn't either.
And I'm there to.
But he understands.
Well, after I asked, and the very first one, I said, "What did you think? Did you have some discussion topics you want me to email them and ask them?" And he started to, and then I realized I actually couldn't follow him because I didn't know the words he was using. So I was in a panic, and I called the practitioner, Kelly, and I said, "What do I do? I can't follow it." And she said, "Jodie, you got to realize," she goes, "I can't follow somebody in a different language. And this level math is a different language, which is." So she said, "Just let him, for now, we'll figure something out. For now, just let him go." And so we just kind of check in after the seminar, and I say, "What was your level of understanding?" And it was typically pretty much I understand most of it, found it really interesting, loved being in a room full of people that think math is great. You know, he loved it. And, and so the very last one, we left and I said, what'd you think of that? And he said, I didn't really get it. And I was like, oh, okay. Was there a particular reason? Was there something in that?
Come on, Philip.
And it was, the student giving the presentation had a very strong accent,
Oh,
was back to the audience and spoke very softly. And I couldn't hear one word. So he just couldn't hear him.
sure.
Yeah. So that was interesting because I was like, yeah, okay. But he didn't say that. He was just like, you know, I couldn't understand his voice. And I was like, that makes sense because he had a very strong accent and
Sure.
oh, he's not making it up. He doesn't lie about, there's no, he's not going to lie and say he understands it because he wants everybody to think he understands it or he doesn't. And he tells you, it's just, it's kind of easy in that respect.
Mhm.
Not wondering if it's true. Nothing out of his mouth is not true.
Right.
It's all true. Easy.
Yeah, I was going to ask what else is he interested in? If he wants to answer me. Michael, how has your life changed since you've been spelling and what kind of things are you interested in besides math?
Right now, my life is going good. I deal with people who underestimate me. I deal with people who underestimate me every day, but I will. Then fighting, FIGHTING, F, then I. And I will not stop fighting for non-speakers.
Mathematics non-speakers?
But yeah, he's just, that's it. I'm not going to stop fighting for people to have.
For non-speakers. Good for you. I have a question, Michael. If you could talk to the people from ASHA, the American Speech, Hearing and Language Association, that says that this is not real, what would you like to say to them? I've put my own opinion out there on video. I would like to hear from a speller. If there's anything you'd like to say to ASHA.
Out of the way, Reggie.
A, then S, then H, then A, then C, then A, then N, then G, then O, then F, then L, then Y, then FL.
Out of the way, Reggie. Out of the way, Princess. Don't
A,
push.
then
You'll like it.
K,
Out of the way, Reggie. Out of the way.
K, then I, then after I comes, you got it, T, then after T comes E, then ASHA can go fly a kite.
Yep. Got it.
Yeah, and then you like this right here, you know, you see the body is doing things that could be behavior. Body's doing it for whatever reason, and he doesn't like it when it happens. He doesn't want it to happen. And again, why do I know this?
Just
He tells me. He
something.
communicates it through
we
spell.
hang on another time. Once
And
we'll
so-
do it again.
All the questions, you know, you have as a parent, like, why is my child doing that?
Once.
They can tell you,
Mhm.
and it makes all kinds of sense. And you can do the right thing to support them when they're having moments like this, as opposed to other things that end up happening because we think it's a behavior.
Right. Right. Well, I'm wondering, when I asked that question, did I stir up emotion in him that causes it or no?
Hi.
Sometimes it can be. She wants to know if when you kind of have those moments, is it an emotion or
Is it because I asked you that question and it made you emotional and then your body starts to take over because of the emotion or no?
B? Then
Yeah.
B.
What? Hey, what do you mean, Gene? What do you mean? Why? Hey, Papa.
Okay, eyes up.
That's right.
T-O. You got it.
What do you mean, Gene? What?
T-O, 2, T-O, after T-O, D, then O, then.
What?
Yeah, because my body does things I don't want it to do.
Wonderful.
Okay, so and he doesn't really know what a trigger, what the triggers are.
No, it's not an emotional thing, like this is,
Okay.
for him.
Yeah.
I think
Yeah,
right
it
now,
just seemed that he was calmer when he was answering me before until I answered that, asked that question.
and it, but according to him, he's doing stuff, and it,
I don't have a handsome shirt. I have a spelling shirt.
do you want to show the shirt?
It is a spelling shirt, yes.
Look.
See, and again,
I do like it.
something like that. I don't have a handsome shirt. I have a spelling shirt. Sounds very childlike and basic. And so those are his words. So that's what you think. He's, like you said, he's always underestimated because of what comes out of his mouth. And so people respond to, oh no, Michael, that shirt is lovely. And it, and we go on and on and on and engage because that's what we do as typical people.
Right. We respond to speaking.
Well, and it's interesting too. My husband kind of does some of this stuff for a living, and when I'm trying to explain to him, like, don't respond to his verbal drips. It's like, I know, but I'm trying to connect with him, and I go, he's asked us not to. Like, he's asked you not to. Like, let's not do this. And I said, and he goes, I know, it just goes against everything we're taught, to.
It's everything you know.
And the benefit, when I say the benefit, he's like, well, what am I supposed to do? And we talk about, like, what are we supposed to do? And it's best to just, believe it or not, talk at him. Hey, Michael, I know you went to the gym today and you had piano. I hope it was okay. We're going to go out to dinner tonight. We'll ask you later where you want to go. And, you talk like he's not going to respond to you, because this was amazing. He's a yes man. He was not a difficult, when I say difficult, like he was up for whatever, he wasn't rigid in a lot of ways growing up, it wasn't always wonderful when we got there because he was a runner.
May I use a pencil?
But he always said, do you want to go here? Yes. Do you want to do this? Yes. Let's go. Yes. Everything was yes. Well, he, in one of his spelling moments with me, he said, I spent my life, things that come out of my mouth, especially the word yes, is not what I want. I've spent my life doing things I don't want to do. Imagine.
Yeah. One of the other interviews, they were talking about a boy that kept saying park, park, park. So his parents kept taking him to the park. And then when he began to spell, he says, I know that's what I'm saying, but I don't want to go to the park.
Yep. And I think too, it is not Tourette's, but sometimes people can kind of connect with that a little bit better, where you have somebody with Tourette's who are they're swearing all day long. They don't want to swear, but their body is doing it. It's not unlike that. And it can seem very appropriate for the moment. His words can seem very appropriate and they're absolutely not what he wants to say.
Right. I want to make sure he has the opportunity to say everything that he wants to say. So what other questions can I ask him so that he can say everything he wants to?
He did mention that, he said, I'm thrilled to know that if I get to reach just one person, this podcast was worth it. So
he'll reach more than one. Yeah.
Do you have anything else you want to say?
Yes, I do.
Cindy.
You ain't gonna stop. You ain't gonna stop me now, back here.
Yes, there is.
Wanna try?
We're having a lot of mispokes, and that's when the body gets tired.
Yeah.
You ready?
Yeah.
And the reason I know it's a mispoke is because the letters aren't making a word. Are you okay?
Same says spellers are something.
Spellers are smart, but again, it's such a basic, and this is interesting too, that's such a basic sentence for him that I know it's a loop. And so when he gets tired, even the
Look out, Bella!
will fall into a loop.
Sure.
No.
Do you have anything else that your body is able to tell us right now? Then P. My goal is to help. My goal is to help them. THEM.
My
Are.
powerful.
Then E. Then they are. That they are capable of being. So he's got a goal, and he spent 25 years not being able to communicate effectively. Spent 25 years not being able to communicate effectively. He knows what it's like. You know, he's had deep trauma that we are also working on. He's lived in a flight or fight situation to the extent that you and I can't even comprehend. You know, you have those moments. Kid runs out in the middle of the road, you're, you know, and it goes up, but that it only lasts 5 to 7 seconds and you start to come down. These guys, non-speaking or unreliable speaking people, live in that level of flight or fight their entire lives. So the trauma is immeasurable.
Right.
And he's got a great person he can speak with now about some of that stuff.
Does the spelling help that or no?
Oh, yes. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Spell being able to communicate is everything. I mean, those are his words. I say a lot of stuff. I say his words. Being able to communicate is everything.
Yeah.
It's absolutely everything.
So it helps the fight or flight.
I mean, it's still, again, when your body is in that all of your life,
Sure.
It's going to take a lifetime now to
Sure.
you know, help him, and
Now you
we'll
try.
support him in any way we can with that. And again, being now in the spelling community, he's not the only one, you know, so there are supports and help people that help in different strategies that we can all use to support that and help them. But yeah, the trauma, and I would never have thought, you know, as a mom, you know what your kid's going through. I would never thought my kids had trauma.
So, Michael, I know you have an Instagram page, right? Would you like people to follow you on Instagram? I'm assuming you would. Most people start their pages because they want people to follow them on Instagram. And if so, if you could share what your page name is, and I'll type it in on the bottom so they could follow you.
He said yes, and this
Okay.
was a yes because it was on the board. It's MDM, so it's MD McIntyre, so MDM CINTYRE Junior. So it's just his
Junior.
name.
Okay.
He's a junior, and you know, he took a break. He was very excited to get the word out on social media, and then really didn't want to post anything for several months. He said it was exhausting and he just didn't want to do it. He's come back. I think you've had 2 posts. So yeah, it's when he really feels compelled to do that and to post,
Sure.
I'll support him and he'll get it done. So
Okay.
I always share everything on mine, everything he does on mine. So
On your Instagram?
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And what is yours?
Jodie Lillian at Jodie Lillian.
JODIELLILLIAN. That's it. Your profile
Yes.
picture is you with your whole family because I see Michael with a bow tie. All right, guys, I want to thank you so much for being here. Michael, thank you for being my first speller on my podcast.
Bye.
Okay. Thank you for being here. Have a great day.
Thank you.
Perfect. That was perfect. That's it for today's episode. I hope you enjoyed listening and it helped you gain a new perspective. To learn more about our children's book series, Robbie's World and His Spectrum of Adventures, or to learn more about what we do at Robbie's World Foundation, simply visit our website at robbiesworldbook.com.
Thank you for joining us today. Be sure to join us again on our next episode of Spectrum Perspectives.